and I try as best I can to be a man of my word. And I hate letting people down. I hate being let down. So here I am. I mean, I really consider being with you today a real blessing.
Thank you, Ron. It's a blessing to have you here too.
Yeah.
Ah, for those who don't know who Ron is, let me just give you a very brief and simple introduction. Ron, let me just see, was there somebody in the waiting room that I wanted to leave in? No, you did. Thank you. Ron is one of the country's US leading expert on exercise physiology, diet and nutrition, and fat loss. Now, how did he get there? You will hear a little bit about it from himself, but he grew up in the ghetto of Indianapolis in a very bad circumstances. And at some point, right, Ron, you decided that this life wasn't for you. And you became first a fitness trainer and then a nationally recognized bodybuilding champion. And he's one of the highest decorated national bodybuilders of the world and in the bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding Hall of Fame. And that is darn hard to achieve, Ron. Congratulations. But it doesn't end there. Ron is also a father and a grandfather, a pastor, a college professor, an author, a life and fitness coach, and an inspirational and motivational speaker. And on top of all that, he invented a workout machine, the Iron Chest Master. And when you look on YouTube, he has an amazing YouTube channel. And in the replay, I'll make sure all the cover channels are posted, because there's videos on the channel of him showing you simple and not so simple exercises, nutrition strategies, how to effectively slim down. And now he actually helps his audience also to find the roadblocks that keep people from losing fat, from achieving their championhood. I watched that Mind webinar that you did. My God, Ron, that is an amazing piece of art. I'm so proud of you for doing that. That is awesome. So I'll, without further ado, as we say here in English, I'll give to a very blessed and great person, Ron. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say I am so happy to be with you guys today. I know a lot of people say that, and sometimes it can be looked at as a cliche, but oh my goodness, I am so serious about that. I really love Dr. Christine, or Christine. She likes me to call her Christine, but I have such high regards for her. And you know, I heard her story some time ago, and she is an amazing woman, and I really appreciate who she is, where she's come from, and just the tenacity and the ability to just keep getting up and keep fighting through it. No matter what comes her way, she's gonna break down those walls to succeed. And the reason why I love that so much, because that is truly a lot of my story, and I see a lot of the attributes that she has. I see some of those same attributes in myself. And personally, I believe there's a champion in all of us. We just have to dig in and we have to find it. And there's something, you know, if you are breathing and you are alive, there's something inside of you that you can do that nobody else can do quite like you. I believe every person that God created, he had a purpose and a plan. And we just have to find out what it is. We have to brush away all of the dross so we can see the gold. Um, I often liken it to a fish outside of water. If you put a fish on the cement on the ground and it lays there and it flaps, and you look at it, it's got this one eye staring up at you. It really doesn't make good sense. I mean, you see its tail flapping, but the moment you put it in water, you see its brilliance come out. Nobody can quite do it like him. Nobody can quite do it like him. And I think with us, we're the same way. We just haven't found our water yet. We haven't found our space and where we're supposed to be. And so we struggle in life. And what I've done is through the years, I've looked back and at all of the things that I've gone through, and I begin to troubleshoot my life to find out what it is I'm supposed to accomplish. And when I found that out, I found out there was a pattern and a process. So a lot of my clients, I help them troubleshoot their lives, and I see the pattern working in their lives just the same. The pattern is the same. And one thing about God is he works in patterns. He works in patterns. And we'll see him all throughout scripture. We'll see these patterns. And a lot of things I'm going to talk to you today, I'll refer to scripture quite a bit. But the title is When a Soul Wound is Healed, Unrealized Potential is Released. And when I explain this to you, man, I mean, you'll see just how powerful this is. I'm going to share my screen with you as we go through this. Here we go. Come on. Okay. When a soul wound is healed, unrealized potential is released. Now, that unrealized potential is actually a seed. All of us, everything was created with the seed. I mean, if you look at all of our plants, if you look at all of the things that are in the world, they're created by a seed. And if you look at Luke 8:11, it said the word of God is a seed. But when your mother and father came together and your father deposited a seed in your mother, then boom, out came you. But within you, there are some, you were created with a natural seed, but inside of you, there are some spiritual seeds that are there. And that the spiritual seeds that are there are potential. The potential that you have inside of yourself. Now, you all should have a worksheet that has about 3 pages, and we're going to go through that. And I hope you'll fill that in and take some notes. But the thing about it is, those seeds that are inside of us, sometimes they're protected. And what I mean by protected, we think that's a good thing, but the seed being protected is not really a good thing, because you may have what we call soul wounds. And soul wounds are traumas, hurts that you have gone through. And what those soul wounds intentions are to do is to block your seeds. So the soul wound will cover a seed. And the nature of a seed is it needs soil and it needs water so that it can be nourished, so that it can grow and produce fruit. Well, with that being said, if you have a wound that is covering that seed, you really don't know that that seed is there. And the thing about a seed is you can keep a seed up to 400 years, and as long as it's protected and it's a perfect seed. The problem with that is you can live, most of us don't live 400 years, at least not anymore. But if you can have a seed inside of you, and it's protected by a soul wound or something has been inflicted in your life, that seed can be protected throughout your whole life. And you never know it was there. And you can die and go into the grave and never know what that seed was. That is your legacy. That is your potential. That is your purpose. And many of us have lots of seeds. One of the things I found out when I was going through this process is I wanted some seeds. So I was driving around one day and I stopped and I seen an apple tree that had a lot of apples that had fell on the ground. And so I got out of the car and I went over into this yard and started picking up these apples. Well, I took the apples home and I started taking the seeds out of these apples. I didn't realize this at the time. I thought all apples had the same amount of seeds in them. Well, as I began to take the seeds out of the apples, some apples had up to 10 seeds and some only had 4. And I thought, that is incredible. So I look at you and I don't know how many seeds we have. We're gifted with so many different seeds, and those seeds are our potential. Now, those seeds could represent a relationship. Those seeds could represent a book, a cure. It could represent your family. I mean, it could represent just about everything. But if that seed is covered up, say with a wound that created insecurity in your life, say your seed is a speaker, but you were wounded and you feel like I shouldn't speak because I really don't have much to say. Well, even though that seed is there, until that seed until that seed is uncovered and that wound is healed, you'll never know that you had the ability to be that speaker, that worldwide speaker, that national speaker, that regional speaker, whatever it might be. You will never have known that it was there. And the reason I use speaker because that was one of my seeds that I didn't realize was there. Teacher was another one of my seeds. Listen, guys, I didn't learn to read until I was 28 years old. Can you believe that? Talking about teaching an old dog a new trick. I was 28 years old when I learned to read, and that's when I became a Christian. I started reading the Bible, and I always say that God taught me how to read because I knew I had to read the Bible to understand who God was, how he worked, and that kind of thing. But back to the lesson, or this workshop. The thing about this workshop that's so powerful is I want to go through and show you how to find your seeds, how to release those seeds, how to get rid of those soul wounds. And I don't have a tremendous amount of time, so I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. There's some other teachings that we have that actually allude to this and show you in depth. So I'm going to graze through this really quick. Okay, here we go. That is a seed being released. There is another seed being released. There's another seed being released. How many seeds do you have? We really don't know. But as we go, mind makeover, when you change your mind, something happens. When you make your mind over, your thoughts that build your champion is released. Now, we talk about a champion here in a moment. Your first mind was given to you without your consent. And what I mean by that is this. Your mind was given to you, or your mindset was given to you by words that you heard, by the surroundings you were in, by the parents you were given. Your mindset was given to you by all of your experiences. It developed your thought process, and you didn't even mean to be the way you are. But if you were raised in a different country, if you were raised with different parents, you would be a different person. You would be a completely different person. But we were handed this. Now, in order to change our thought process in our mindset, it's going to require our consent and a great deal of effort. If your mindset is not serving you well, it's not leading you in the direction that you want to go in, you have the ability to change that. But I'm not saying that's the easiest thing in the world, because it's really who you are now. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if you think it and you believe it, that's really who you are. We have to change our belief system. And when we change our belief system, we may look the same, but we're different people at that point. And so that's where this really leads to. Okay, now one thing, we have addictions that we have, and in this workshop and seminar that Dr. Christine looked at or watched, it talks a lot about this. I'm just going to just scrape past this, and I want you guys to watch it because, like she said, it really is a powerful training. Now, we have these happy hormones that are released, and those happy hormones actually imprints and stamps its approval on our actions and our behaviors. And because it does that, that means that it's possible that we can have behaviors and actions that are not good, but your hormones are released because it's a part of your belief system that you developed as a child. And some of those things we need to reverse. So what happens is when you start to go against your belief system, what happens is your brain does this. It lights up when you do what your brain is used to, but when you go against it, it goes dark. When it goes dark, you're fighting through and you're using willpower, and willpower is like a muscle. After a while, willpower gets tired and it gives out, and you give into it, and it goes back to doing your old behavior, and the brain lights up, the endorphins are released, and it stamps its approval on what you're doing, whether it's good or bad, whether it's good or bad. And you will fight for this belief system to keep it moving. It's part of our survival system. We move forward. And what this does, it creates what I call a fixed cycle. Now, a fixed cycle is something that once it is set, it's broken and you can't change it. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to change it. And even though our fixed cycles can be painful, we hold on to them. We keep them around because we love them. We love the pain that we're going through. And that may sound strange. Some people stay with other people that create a tremendous amount of pain in their life. A husband or a wife or somebody keeps a tremendous amount of pain in their life, but they won't get out of that circumstance. It's toxic, but they stay in that circumstance because they have a fixed cycle, and it feels wrong to get out of that situation. I have a friend today who she's going through a divorce now. And the husband that she's been with all of these years has actually made her physically sick. He is so toxic for her. He's abused the kids. He's abused her. I mean, but she would not get out of that relationship because she had a fixed cycle, and she convinced herself that it was okay. She loves her pain. But when her when her husband and her son got in a fight, and one was hurt really, really bad, and there was protective orders going out, and I mean, this thing had to end. So this thing is ending in a divorce. And she realizes now that the toxicity of that relationship lasted because she had a fixed cycle. So those fixed cycles, sometimes they come with pain. And this is an example. You've heard of a runner's high. Well, runners, when they run so long, and they're running intensely, there's a pain barrier that they break through, and they get this euphoric feeling. Oh, I get it when I work out. I mean, and it is so, I mean, when I'm pushing the weights and it's extremely heavy and I'm pushing through it, I get this euphoric feeling. And I love my pain. Or I'm doing leg extensions and it starts to burn really, really bad. Some of you guys are saying, I want nothing to do with that. And I don't blame you, but I like my pain. So I'm going through this tremendous pain, but it's similar, like I said, to a runner's high, that runners run and they run and they run and they run, and they get this euphoria, and they just keep running and floating through it, even though it's painful. We have things like piercings. You see people that have piercings all over, you say, my goodness, that must really hurt. They have piercing in their ears, above their eyes, in their nose, on their mouth, on their tongues, in their jaw, on their nipples, on their chest, I mean, in their navels, and they have them everywhere. It releases endorphins, and they love their pain. We go on, tattoos. I remember when I was in the military, I was about 18 years old, and all the guys were getting a tattoo and everything. And so I thought, I'm going to get a tattoo also. So I got this small tattoo on my upper thigh, really high on my upper thigh. Now, when I got the tattoo, I had no idea of the pain that this thing was going to cause me. Now, you got to realize this was over 40 years ago, and they didn't have the technology that they have today. You might as well just take a needle and just stick yourself in the skin like this and just go all the way around. But it was so painful. I couldn't imagine ever getting another tattoo. But some people, they tattoo their whole bodies because there is a euphoria that comes with it, and they love it. They love the tattoos, and they've run out of space, so they put tattoos on top of tattoos. Another one, cutting. You know, there are some people, they do cutting, and this is one I don't quite understand, but they'll cut themselves with razors. And that pain that they feel, they actually enjoy the cutting. And there's something behind that psychologically that could be looked into. Deep tissue massage. My wife likes this. I give her deep tissue massage where I take my elbow and I stick it in really, really deep. A massage therapist wouldn't do it, but I'll go in really, really deep. She goes, oh, it really hurts, but she a little bit deeper. So I'll go a little bit deeper, of course. I have to, facilitate her that way. But deep tissue massage is another. Spicy foods also releases endorphins. So there is a reason, and the reason I'm showing you this is to show you that there are some things that we know that make sense, that create pain, but yet we embrace it. There are things that we do, processed carbs, they also release endorphins because of the sugar that they create in your body. And this becomes very, very addictive. Now, this is what I want you to see here. And I'm going to briefly go over this. We develop what I call unintended goals because we never intended to have those goals. And that comes because of, the receptivity, number one, and the environment and the people that we grew up around. So we could call that unintended goal could also be related to a soul wound. But the thing about this is, first thing, you have to be receptive. Number two, you have to have words or action to start this process. So when you're receptive, somebody tells you, you're stupid. And if you believe what they say, it doesn't matter that they call you stupid. It doesn't matter what somebody else believes. What really matters is what you believe. There's a part of you that wants to hear what you have to say about you. And that's what takes place. In your subconscious self wants to hear what you have to say about you, and that's who you become. So somebody you respect says, you're stupid, and you hear it repetitively, and you begin to say to yourself, I'm stupid. Then that's who you become. But if you refute it and say, I am not stupid, you may call me stupid, but I refuse to be your stupid. I am nobody's stupid person. I am not stupid. I am very capable. I am able to do just about anything I want to do. I am not stupid. But the moment you agree with you're stupid, then you become receptive to that word or action that was taken. Now, the action, when a soul wound is inflicted, it is an action that created this initial entry. But if you go the long way, it's first words, then a thought. Because if you say one word, listen to this. If I'm in a room full of people and I say, stupid, nobody will pay attention to me. But if I say, Kim, you are the most stupidest person that I know, then it's directed to Kim, and those words created a sentence, and that sentence created a thought in Kim's head. So it's what she does with that thought. That thought creates a feeling, and it turns into an emotion, and then her will gets involved. How will I respond to this? And then once she acts on it, then she acts over and over and over and over again. It creates a habit. Once that habit is set, habits can be broken, but a fixed cycle is different. Once you develop a fixed cycle, it's like having a circle and turning that circle, but all of a sudden, the ability to turn it and stop it, that part breaks, and that circle just keeps turning. And it's a fixed cycle now. It just goes without it's a program. It goes without your effort or you even saying anything. And you become hardwired, and it is a pattern and a process in your life. If you want to reverse that, you have to reverse this fixed cycle. It becomes embossed in your brain, and once it's embossed, that is who you are. It is a reality to you, and you will fight for it. You will absolutely fight for it. Why? This releases the endorphins and the happy hormones, and you actually agree with it. It becomes a part of your belief system. Sometimes when you're having a conversation and you're talking to that other person and you're arguing back and forth, and you think that person doesn't like me. No, it may not be that they don't like you. They may have fixed cycles that are contrary to your fixed cycles, and your fixed cycles are butting heads, and you're fighting for your fixed cycles to stay the same. Now, you have to rewire, and there are 10 steps. And these 10 steps, I actually go through in a program to actually show you how to get through it. But I'm going to tell you something, a tremendous amount of this has to do with you forgiving. And some people say, I don't want to forgive. It was so painful. Personally, I'm going to tell you something. Everything that I went through, and I went through a lot in my younger years, a lot. Some of the things I could forgive, and some of the things were too big for me to forgive. Some of those things were bigger than me. And I had to go to God, and I had to ask God for his forgiveness. Give me your forgiveness so I can forgive this person, so I can forgive that person. Because some of the things that happened to me were so great, I just didn't have the capacity to forgive. I tried. And I remember there was this one person in my life that I forgave 1,000 times. You know what that means? 999 times I didn't forgive. I thought I did. But the 1,000th time was when true forgiveness came in. And I asked God to give me his forgiveness. And when he gave me his forgiveness for that person, I was able to truly forgive them and put it behind me. And I'm going to tell you something. When that happened, when true forgiveness comes in and a wound is healed, potential is released. And what I mean by that is, if you'll look behind me, those are some of the things that have become my potential. I won over 250 natural bodybuilding titles, but and that's because there were some wounds that were healed, and then there were some things released. I had to do some overcoming. And if you look behind me, you'll see books that I've written. You'll see inventions that I've invented. You'll see products that I've created. Every time something is healed, something was released. My potential was released. A seed was released in my life so that I could progress forward. I had no idea I could be an inventor. I thought, I told Dr. Christine that I lost a son a couple of weeks ago. He was shot in the brain. And that was supposed to be me. I was told, you won't live to be 18 years old. You'll be dead or either in jail, one or the other. And I'm neither of those things, because I made a determination that I wasn't going to end my life like that. I made a decision, and then I made a commitment to the decision I made. Because you can make a decision and then you can decide to change your mind. But when you make a decision and you commit, there's nothing left to be said, because you're committed now. You're committed. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. You are committed. So with that being said, there's a process that we have to go through. And there are some reality checks that we have to go through. And there's some examination. We have to examine ourselves, and we have to be extremely honest with ourselves. And as I've gone through this process, not just once, not just twice, maybe hundreds of times, every time I go through this process, there is a wound healed, and then there's a seed released, or there's potential released. Now, as you're looking at the paperwork that we have, I want to go over that here in just a second. Let me speed this up a little bit. Now, we know about these things. We have addictions to drugs. We have people that are addicted to liquor, to porn, to sex, to gambling, to video games, people that are addicted to food. And those addictions are very familiar. But guess what? What makes these addictions partly is because it releases the happy hormones. You have this person who gambles. He says, I'm going to go to Las Vegas, and I've got the greatest plan on the planet. I've got $150,000, and I'm going to go and triple this. Well, he's tried this 10 times before, and it never worked. But this time, it's going to work. I know it's going to work this time. So he goes and he does the same thing. He loses the money. So he goes to his mother and says, Mom, if you put a mortgage on your house and just give me the equity, $150,000 equity that you have in your house, I'm going to go to Vegas and I'm going to win $450,000, and I'm going to give you 300 of the $450,000. It's a no-brainer, Mom. And she says, son, you've lost your family, you've lost everything, you've lost your job, you've lost everything in gambling. And now you want to lose my house. No, 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 mom, I've got a sure thing this time. He convinces himself again, and endorphins are released. When he loses the money, he thinks, I don't know how this happened. How did I lose all of this money? It's an addiction. It released endorphins. He was convinced that this was going to work. The girl I told you about, she stayed in this relationship over 25 years. Every time there was a blow up, every time there was a fight, every time there was an abuse, she was convinced that's going to be different next time. Every time. So these things we know, but guess what? We can move over to the right side. We have what we call addictive thoughts. That happens the same way. I can't speak. Let me tell you how that works. I was a kid. I was molested as a kid. I was abandoned as a kid. I was dropped off at a babysitter's and just left there. I was abused, beaten as a kid. And I thought, I have nothing important to say. Nothing important to say. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. So I stayed in the corner. I mean, I never came out. I never really talked. I could talk to one person one-on-one. I could do that. But to talk in front of a group, there's no way that could happen. And so that seed of being able to speak was covered. I have a seed of being able to teach. That seed was covered because I was so insecure with who Ron Williams is. I felt like I was a waste of space. Why am I breathing? You know, somebody else should be breathing this air, but I'm useless and I'm worthless. Why am I even on this planet? You know, that was my thought process. And so that seed, those seeds were covered by the wounds that were acquired. So if you have these wounds, they will prevent you from being all you could be. I didn't want to get close to people. I didn't know how to build relationships. I didn't want to build relationships. Why? When your mother drops you off and your father doesn't pick you up, when he comes over, the only thing he does is beat you, when you're always, you know, Santa Claus don't come around for Christmas, so even Santa Claus doesn't like you. You feel like people are here for one reason, and that's to hurt you. So why would I want to build a relationship? I didn't want to build a relationship. So even relational seeds were covered by the wounds. So I couldn't build relationships. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything that I was born to do because of these multiple wounds that I had in my life. Now, as I started getting rid of these wounds, I started to realize that there were some things I could do. But then not only that, but when I got rid of these huge wounds, there were some smaller ones that were covering up other things. Some smaller wounds, but because they weren't as impactful and so painful, I ignored those. But when I began to deal with those and examine myself and go through that process that you just saw, I found that there were some other things that needed to be dealt with. And I started troubleshooting and dealt with those. And the moment that soul wound was healed, unrealized potential was released. And then that became a book. That became an invention. That became something new. And I'm thinking that became a relationship. It was really hard for me to develop the relationship I have with my wife. Now, Jesus is my best friend in the world. I mean, in the universe, but she's my best friend in the world. And we have this close relation. It's a special relationship. And I just never thought that I could ever have a relationship like that because it was an impossibility for me. So I can't speak. Money is evil. These are things that we learn as growing up. Money is evil. Some of us were taught that money is evil, but money's not evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Money's not evil. If you're a good person, you can do a lot of good things with a lot of money. I was meant to be poor. I hate the opposite sex. I mean, we have all these things. I was meant to I can't see that, we're covered up by our pictures. I wasn't meant to be successful. What else do we have here? All of these things. I'm not a leader. I'm dumb. Don't believe that. I thought I was dumb. I mean, I was told you're dumb, you're stupid, and I bought into that. But after a while, I started writing books and became a college professor. I mean, that's kind of funny. Can't read at 28. And by the time I was 40, I was a college professor and had written books. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But it just shows that we don't have to play with the cards we were dealt. We can get rid of that deck and get a new one. Okay, when a soul wound is healed, I want you to see this. When a soul wound is healed, unrealized potential is released. That unrealized potential is a seed. And when that seed is covered and protected, it can't be planted into your heart. When it's planted into your heart, that's where the soil of life for you and I grows. The Bible tells us very clearly in Proverbs 4 and verse 23, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of the heart flows the issues of life. Guess what? That's where our issues are. Our issues are in our heart. We get rid of those issues. We get rid of the issues. And what happens, I want you to watch that seed. See that seed? All of a sudden, something's happening with that seed as we watch it. We see, oh, one of the layers is gone, but the seed is still covered. It's still protected. Oh, now it's released. Now that seed is planted in the soil of your heart. The Bible tells us as long as the earth remains, there'll be seed time and there'll be harvest time. Now, in Galatians 6 and verse 9, it says, let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. Do you know what that says to me? That the seed, once it's released, it's not going to give me fruit automatically and overnight. It says that in due season, that means there's a season that that seed has to be planted in the soil of your heart, nurtured, watered, protected, and then it starts to grow. First is the root, then the shoot, and then the fruit. Oh my goodness. Did you hear that? First is the root. It establishes roots in the ground, then the shoot, and then the fruit. You start to see the fruit of the seed that was planted. So whenever we invent a piece of equipment, first, the Lord will wake me up with a thought and an idea. And it will haunt me for weeks and weeks and weeks. I'll get out a piece of paper and start drawing it. My wife will open the glove compartment and she'll find a drawing in the glove compartment. She'll go and look where our silverware are. She'll find a drawing there. I mean, I'm drawing it everywhere. I'm drawing it everywhere, under the bed, in my drawers. She'll find it everywhere. And it means it's time to take this to the next level. And that's the seed being planted. And then we move from there. Next thing, we find ourselves in China, finding manufacturers, finding different places that we can get this thing produced. Then I create a model myself so I can use it and perfect it. Next thing you know, it's on the market. But there's a process that comes with it. But the wound protects the seed. You have seeds in you that you know not of. And if we can heal these wounds, and all of us have them. All of us have something that's holding us back from our greatest potential, from what we were born to do. Things that we were born to do. Now, some of you have done great things, but I don't think you're done. I'm not done. I've got some books that need to be written. I've got some other inventions that need to be invented. And I'm steady searching, and I've got some relationships that need to be built. And I know the only way that I can do that is begin to push forward and make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm looking at my clock right now to make sure I don't go over. But if you'll pick up that, if you have this worksheet, I just want to go through it real quick. Now, there's some definitions that I wanted to give you guys as we went through this. What is the difference between a champion and a championship? Well, I won lots of championships. I actually became a championship junkie. I mean, I found I could win one, I could win two, and I just went all out and won 250. And just thinking about it now makes me tired. I have 21 world championships to my name. 7-time Mr. Natural Universe, 7-time Natural Mr. World, 7-time Natural Mr. Olympia. They put me in the Natural Bodybuilders Hall of Fame. I achieved an award that nobody else has achieved, and that's Natural Bodybuilder of the Decade. So, I mean, I know how to win championships, but guess what? I wasn't satisfied. You know why? There's a difference between a champion and a championship. See, every time you win a championship, it's up in 12 months for somebody else to take your title. And so you have to win it again and again and again. But there's a difference between a championship and a champion. A championship is what you do, but a champion is who you are. What I wanted was not to win a championship. What I really wanted was to be a champion. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be a champion, and I was missing something. So I took all of those principles that it took to win a championship, and I turned those inward, and I decided that I was going to be a champion. And even when I take out the trash, I'm a champion. I take the trash out like a champion, because champion is who I am. I'm a champion husband. I'm a champion in as far as my work is concerned. Whatever I do it as a champion, and not just trying to win a championship. 4 areas I work in: faith, family, fitness, and finances. Those 4 areas. I may not be able to change a light bulb very well, but those 4 areas I want to be extremely good in, because if I can be good in those areas, I can pay somebody to change my light bulb. The next one, so champion. So what is the difference between a champion? We just talked about that. What is the definition of a masterpiece? Now, I want to tell you something that I really love about this. Now, this is beautiful. This is really, really beautiful. Maxine would appreciate this. And that's this. Now, a masterpiece is a work that an artist or sculptor wants to leave behind as a legacy. They wanted to represent them as the best work that they could do, their masterpiece. But one of the things that the Lord was showing me when it comes to masterpiece is our lives are a masterpiece. And if we want to develop our life, we can make our own life what we want it to be, or we can be co-workers together with God and build this masterpiece. No matter what, we're going to be a piece of something. You didn't hear that, did you? No matter what, we're going to be a piece of something at the end of the day. But if you want to be a masterpiece, then the master's hand needs to be involved. So when the master gets involved, we can create together this masterpiece. And that's what I want my life to be, a masterpiece. So I want you to write down the definition of a masterpiece. Now, what is the definition of a soul wound? Now, a soul wound is a wound that's inflicted, not on your physical body, but in your soul. Now, the thing about a wound is all injuries have a desire to be healed. But that injury, doctors don't heal injuries. What they do is they put you in the best environment possible so that injury can be healed. If you cut your arm, the doctor will clean out the wound and he'll put some stuff on there that really stings, and then he'll stitch it up and he says, there you go. And he'll just sit it there, and hopefully he's created the best environment for your body to do what it was created to do. Now with your soul, it's a completely different thing. The Bible tells us in Isaiah 53 and verse 10 that Jesus poured out his soul for us. So he reserved the soul to be healed by him. And so what he does is our soul wounds, we take that soul wound like any other wound and we put it in the best environment so that it can be healed. So we say, here is my soul. Here's my soul. I've got some injuries here. I've got some hurts here. And these things are deep. Nobody can see them. But you know that they're there. And I want you to help me with the healing process. And he says, well, you need to forgive the culprit. You say, oh, I can't forgive him. Well, you can't be healed. You got to put it in the best environment. And the environment of love, the environment of forgiveness, the environment, he said, if you don't forgive others, I can't forgive you. So you've got to be willing to give in order to receive. That is a spiritual principle. So let's go on. Let's move to the next one. What is the nature of a soul wound? Now, a wound, if it's not healed, see, the danger of a wound is this. If a wound is there and it's not healed, it festers. And if a wound festers, it can grow, it can get bigger. You can put a Band-Aid on it, but it's like a cancer. It can get infected. So many different things can happen to a wound. But when a wound is healed, it turns into a scar. Now, there's great things about a scar. The great thing about a scar is it doesn't hurt anymore. That scar, it leaves compassion. That soul scar leaves compassion for people that are going through the same thing that you went through. That scar gives you wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. I got through it, so now I've got some information that I can transfer to other people so they too can get through it. So that scar is very important. We don't want to forgive and forget. We want to forgive and be healed. See, we don't want to forget. We want to remember what we've gone through so we can utilize that information to help someone else. Now, God never intended for us to forget the pain that we suffered. He just wants to get rid of the pain and remember the experience so we can use that experience to help someone else. One thing I learned is if you forget where you came from, it's easy to return there. If you forget where you came from, the possibility of you returning there, and this happens throughout history. We can see historically, when a culture forgets where they came from, they return to that same situation eventually. Now, the next thing is, what is the definition of a seed? Now, what I love about a seed is a seed, if you have an apple seed, it will never produce an orange for you. There is a miracle within that seed to reproduce after its own kind. So if it's an apple seed that's planted, don't worry about a banana, don't worry about grapes, because it's never going to happen. You're only going to get apples. So whatever seed is planted is what harvest you're going to reap. If you plant seeds of faith, guess what's going to grow? If you plant seeds of an invention, guess what's going to grow? Whatever your potential is, that's what that seed has involved with it. It will only reproduce after its kind. Now, let's move to the next page. We're almost done here. How do we overcome soul wounds? And how do we make them soul scars so that the seeds can be planted? We talked a little bit about that. What's the difference between soul wounds and soul scars? One hurts and one doesn't. It's almost like watching a TV show. You can see the show and you can see the trauma in the show, but it doesn't hurt you. So you can review and you can go back through your past and see all of those incidents happen, but it doesn't hurt anymore. Now, what used to happen to me was you could trigger me. You could trigger me. If you said a word to me, it could trigger me. I mean, I'll give you a real quick example. I wasn't very funny, but I was about 20 to 23 years old. And I told a joke and everybody laughed for the first time. I told a real joke. And one of the guys, he laughed. He says, "Man, that was so funny." Another guy said, "You so are stupid." And when he said stupid, I heard stupid, 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 stupid. It went back through my childhood. And I remember, "You're dumb, you're stupid, you'll never be anything." I looked at him and said, "You call me stupid? Are you kidding me?" And I was so angry. And he said, "No, man, I was just saying you're funny." But I was triggered. And the thing about triggers is nobody around you knows what your triggers are. Nobody knows what your triggers are. And sometimes those triggers explode outwardly, but more dangerously, they explode inwardly. And they release cortisol. They create extra body fat. They create stress. They create high blood pressure. But if you explode, it still releases cortisol, but at least part of it you get out of you, and part of your stress goes to somebody else, whoever you exploded on. But if you keep it in, it's going to affect you either way. We just need to get rid of the trigger. Remember this: if there is a trigger, there's a gun somewhere in the vicinity. If there's a gun in the vicinity, all you need is a bullet to get an explosion. That bullet could be one word. That bullet could be one word, and you've got an explosion. Some of us, our spouses trigger us often, but we have to get rid of those triggers. We have to realize it's not really their fault. There's something in us that haunts us from yesteryear. Okay, the next one. Um, I want you to just write down one soul wound that you have. And I want you to realize with that soul wound that you have something that traumatized you, an event, or it could be, you could have an alcoholic person that you live around. It could be anything. I named a few: alcoholism, verbal abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse. It could be emotional abuse, abandonment, rejection issues, molestation, rape. It could be just about anything, but name one and take it through that process. And one of the things I want you to do, as you look beneath there, it says, I'm going to explain the importance of overcoming the soul wound and the process and how to do it. And I've give you some steps right here, and then some scriptures that actually validate those steps. This is a short list of things that you could do to actually overcome it. And then on the next page, I want you to write notes, but you'll notice that at the top of the next page, we talk about forgive. This is a hard thing, forgive, because I thought about this. I mean, this almost makes me emotional even right now. But when I think about forgiveness, I think about some of the things that I had to forgive and how hard they were. I thought, why would I ever forgive them for that? As much pain as they caused me, why in the world would I ever forgive them for doing that? Well, when I forgive them, I can heal. And when I forgive them, my potential is released. When I forgive them, I've got another invention. I've got another book. I've got a better relationship. When I forgive them, I can move forward with my life. But if I don't forgive them, then I create another struggle in my life. One quick story, and I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna look at the time again. 4:55. Okay, we're doing good. Now this story,
Ron,
this
if you
story,
need to go over, go ahead. I think we are all okay with it because you're so good, and thank you.
okay, awesome, awesome. Now, this was a pastor's wife in California. She was raped when she was younger. And we were talking, me and my wife, we were talking to them. And as we sat there talking, I mean, it's 11 o'clock at night, we're still talking. It's 12 o'clock, it's midnight, we're still talking, trying to convince her that, you know, you're a pastor's wife, you're one of the leaders in the church. You've got to forgive. The Bible, you are a Bible-believing Christian. You've got to forgive. And she's like, I'll never forgive him. He was a friend of the family. He had no business coming into my bedroom. He had no business doing this to me. And we kept talking, we kept talking. And I heard something in my ear say this to her. And it was appalling what I said to her. This is what I said. I said, tell me this. How long will you sleep in the bed with two men? And she looked at me and said, I would never do that. And she said, I would never in my life do that. I love my husband way too much. I said, no, you don't. You don't love your husband as much as you say you do. And she got angry with me. She said, what are you saying? And I said, every time, because these are some things she used to do. What would trigger her is certain things would trigger her, like Old Spice, the cologne Old Spice, because the guy who raped her had Old Spice on his skin. And so whenever she smells Old Spice, she's triggered, and it feels like she's being raped right now. And the other thing that triggered her was if her husband starts to shave before he goes to bed at night. And that means I'm going to shave my face so my beard doesn't scratch your face when we're kissing. So she would do different things like this. She would start an argument right before bed so that it made it uncomfortable for them to come together intimately. Or she would say, let's watch this movie at late at night so they both could fall asleep to the movie. Or she would do things like if he's in the bathroom getting ready for bed, she would have one eye open like this, and she would go, pretend like she was asleep when she really wasn't. So she had ways of getting around being intimate with her husband when she was triggered. But when I said to her, I said, every time you start an argument with your husband because you don't want to have relationships with him, every time you smell that Old Spice, that man that raped you, who's now dead, he's very much alive, and he is in your bed. He is hindering you and your husband's relationship. And she said, what do I need to do to forgive him? What do I need to do? And we went straight to our knees at that time. And all three of us cried. And we prayed and we cried and we prayed and we committed it to God and we forgave him together. And I told her, I said, I want you to visualize him standing right in front of you. And I said, I want you to call his name and tell him, I forgive you, even though you wronged me. None of this was my fault. You wronged me, but I forgive you. And one of the things the Bible says, it says, cast your cares on me because I care for you. And a lot of times what we do is this is our care right here. We'll do like that and we'll give it to him. And as we leave, we pick it back up. But he said, cast your cares. If you were to look at a fisherman and he casts his rod or casts his net, he throws it way far away from him to get it as far away from him as he possibly can. And once you cast it, you don't want to go pick it up. You know why? Because between where you are and where you cast your care, Jaws could be lurking in the water. You don't want to meet Jaws out there in the water. That shark will eat you up. So you cast it as far away from you and you leave it there. Don't pick it back up and let it haunt you anymore. So we want to go through this process and we want to get rid of those wounds, because the minute we do, the minute she got rid of that, her and her husband could come together and all of the pain that she was suffering was gone. There were no more triggers there to trigger her into separating herself from her husband in their relationship. But it was hard for her to let it go because she thought he doesn't deserve to be forgiven. But the man was already dead and gone, but he was still very much alive inside of her. And so I want to encourage you to find those people, regardless of who they are, forgive them, let them go. Allow something beautiful to be released in your life. And with that said, God bless you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this. Dr. Christine, I just love you, and you are such a blessing, and I appreciate all that you do, and thanks for this time that you've allotted me. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Hi, Ron. I stopped the screen share so we can see each other in case somebody has question. I just want to read one lady. I won't name names. I hope it's okay. I'm saying she said very kind word about what was happening, that she's recognizing that she was tolerating people as friends who was constantly betraying her and are deceitful. And she had been journaling the experience, which helped her track her addictions and triggers. And she said, this is awesome. And it is, Ron. And it took her a long time to recognize those triggers. And she had very bad experiences herself. And she thought she's not good enough because she grew up with domestic violence and worse things, and always seeking someone that would let her know that she is good enough. So she attracted the wrong people, gangs and exploitation. And she's happy now because she's watching you and she overcame it, but she's ready for the next steps to elevate. So she is good enough. And yes, you are absolutely, you're perfect as you are. And we are so blessed to have all of you here, and especially you, Ron. You are a gifted, blessed teacher, and I'm very fortunate that you did that for us, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you. I look forward to us doing something together, whether it's writing a book or maybe speaking together. I mean, because I just love you and the work that you do also.
Oh, that's so kind, Ron. I love to do that, really. And we have to do something together because I really like your message, your story, and what you have done and become with your life. It could have went very differently, as everybody knows. And a little technical remark. We are very well on time, Ron. Thank you. Although at the end, it didn't matter. Everybody that registered will get the replay. I will put the link to that worksheet for those who couldn't download it. Sometimes it doesn't work on a phone in it. And also Ron was so generous to give us a link so we can watch one of his very nice webinars, which is called, how do you call it, Ron? I don't, about the mind. Mind
makeover.
Mind makeover. I watched it. I forgot the name and I'm ashamed, but here's the links. And I will also put it in the replay, but for those that can't wait to hear more from Ron, thank you so much for making that available for free. I watched it myself. It is awesome. And everybody that's interested, look in the email that we'll send out. And I know Ron will send you an email too. And you're all invited to follow him wherever you want to follow him, because he's a good person. And in that sense, I wish you all a blessed rest of the day or the night, and become champions.
Christine, may I make a comment, please?
Yes, please, Maxine.
While I was listening to you, Ron, I was thinking about all the seeds that have been planted and covered over because of soul wounds. And even when I have uncovered or discovered some of them, I was afraid to really accept them as my own. And I think I mentioned to you before, I couldn't believe I could paint. And the same about my writing and whatever. So I really appreciated what you had to say today. I think you have impacted my life, and that perhaps I can make some of those changes that will uncover those soul wounded seeds. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to comment or have a question, please unmute yourself and go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Thank you, Maxine.
Hi, this is Janet.
Yes.
Hi, Christine. Hi, Ron.
Hi, Janet.
Hi.
So I just want to say that this was really great. And when I first got on, I'm like, I've heard all this before and yada, yada, yada. It's my usual conversation. And I just sat and listened. And then when I started to listen, I really got in tune with what was going on with me, even though I'd already been going through a process of recovery, and I've always been seeking healing. You know, I practiced Buddhism. I was going at 6 a.m. in the morning, and I was chanting for hours and hours. Every morning, 6 a.m. before work. And in the evening, I'm going walks by the lake and doing yoga and doing all the things to heal me from what I went through. But today, when I listened to this, it kind of brought all the pieces together. And then I've gone to another level where I've started to recognize the people around me that trigger me. That the ones that will not be there for me, that don't support me in any way. They're more damaging because they're the addiction that triggers me to my old behaviors from the people that I've had in the past. And I really got that today from listening to this.
That is awesome.
Thank you, Janet.
You know,
Janet, are you okay?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that hurts me the most was the fact that I didn't value who I was. The fact that I didn't recognize that I am someone special. The fact that I didn't recognize I was important.
Janet, I just
I was
wanted to
like a
say,
nobody. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here, but I really
No.
got that today, and I never got that like I've got it now.
and I thank you very much for saying that,
Yeah,
Janet.
there's just a, you know, in something, you go through life, you think you have it, you think you know, everything's together, you're going through the healing process, but then all of a sudden something really resonates with you and you feel it. It's like somebody's just like a big wave has washed over you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Janet, I just wanted to let you know and everybody that's on the call and was touched. I'm not sure about you, Ron, but I offer free sessions. If anybody needs to talk, let me know. I don't want to just leave people that have maybe suddenly uncovered or got triggered or have seeds that they want to uncover. I don't want to leave you hang. I know
No.
I'm happy to talk with any of you, and I'm pretty sure if you contact Ron, he is a very generous and caring man.
Christine, I feel calm. I feel like something just lifted from me. That's what I feel. I don't feel, it's like, you know, I just feel calm about, it's like I've got another level of recognition or another level of acceptance that I'm letting something go.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I think we all have been very touched by Ron's story and his teaching. Any other questions? Very powerful, I hear, Ron, and it's true.
Thank you.
If not, we'll wrap it off. I want to thank everybody for coming. And as I said, anybody will get the replay. If you have any questions, you will get Ron's email, my email. We are both here for you. Thank you so much, Ron. I love you, and I love everyone that came on this call. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful night. Bye-bye.